We fish for the fish that eat the fish you fish for, and you should too. Quit jacking around and get you some hog dogs today.
See, if you don't have a pocket knife, you're not
Was
a
that
man.
an old timer?
So, I don't know. I got this
Old
from a
timers are
third
good.
grader.
Is that a case? What is that thing?
I don't know.
I just see
found-
your knife. I mean, I showed you mine.
This one's a cheap knife.
Can you show me yours?
Yeah, it's sharp.
Looks like an
though.
old timer.
I don't
It
know.
does.
It's
Or is it a knockoff?
It's 440 stainless, made in
China. I bet it's
China.
China.
what do they call it? Chicken fry rice. Where that's made. But it's it's a pocket knife, right?
It's a pocket knife. It cuts fishing line.
You have a great edge on there.
There is a good edge on there, isn't there?
Yep.
Like,
So, yeah, I've been carrying a Benchmade in my pocket since PJ, the late great PJ J. Jeets, said, "What kind of knife you got?" And I told him, and he was like, "It's a piece of shit. Get rid of it." And he said, "You need to get one of these." So I did.
Benchmade.
I used a cheap
Yep.
knife for a long time, and it would hold an edge for a day. I would cut 2 dock ropes with it and be junk.
So what do you guys think of the Bubba Blades? Bubba Blade fillet knives.
They got good steel.
Dude, I like them.
They got good
I love
steel.
them, man. I sharpen them. They stay good. I was hacking through a big moon eye for some cut bait earlier, and that thing kept a good
Hey,
edge.
could you not put it on our dinner table?
Where do you want me to
Well,
put
that's
it?
leave
Would you
it,
hurry
leave
up?
it on your cardboard.
If you'd hurry up,
and you're cutting them too
Just
big.
throw them in the chip
I'm-
bag for later.
a little bit of protein. In case the brown
Nothing better
wasn't
than night
enough.
crawlers and Fritos.
Welcome back to the MudbuM USA podcast. We are here baiting our trot lines for the night and talking about night crawlers
I gotta place it in your hand.
and knives. Yeah.
All right.
So
There you go.
I want to do a session on camping on the river and take like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes each. Talk about your memories, what you remember when you started camping on the Mississippi River.
Awesome.
Who wants to go first? I'll go first. I was 9 years old, and my family, we had houseboats, right? Nothing nice. Fiberglass boats, steel hull boats, things like that. But the thing that I remember the most is going out for duck camp twice a year on the houseboats. Guys' time. Playing football. Just wrecking people's world.
Yeah.
And like, so you go out swim for, September, early season. It's like 80 freaking degrees.
Look at these boys rolling up. Sorry, not to
Punks.
interrupt.
Honks. River rats.
Go swimming. Shoot a pile of teal, wood ducks. Come back, cook breakfast. And for those of you that enjoy a good alcoholic beverage once in a while, like pony kegs that would last the first 2 days of the season
Yeah.
for the adults. That is where my love for the river came from. Got hunting, camping. I think we go fishing once in a while, early season. But my fondest memories are coming in from duck hunting, camping on the river. We do like 4th of July, things like that. But at the end of the day, that hunting season sticks out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, we're going in order?
Yeah, sure. I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah, man, you're up.
All right.
Get some river rats pulled in.
Yeah, that's a sweet boat, though. So I'll let it up. So my earliest memory of camping on the river was June 3rd, 2022. I was 37 years old, and my friend Blake took me out. Taught me how to bank pole fish. And
Yes.
yeah, it was less than 24 hours ago. I got a total of 3.5 hours of sleep. I'm still going. I feel great. It's amazing what a 3 hours of sleep on a river will give a human body in comparison to like laying in your own bed.
It's way better rest.
Oh,
way
rock
better.
to sleep like a baby.
It's the sand in your bed that puts you to sleep.
Yeah,
The
it
rocking.
exfoliates.
The rocking,
Yeah.
the
You
know,
sand.
Yeah.
It's the
Barges
it's
going
the
by.
temps. like the tent camping when it's 260 degrees in your tent. That's what keeps me asleep.
If you forget to leave a window, close a window at night, you're pretty damp in the morning. Feels like you slept on the deck or out by the campfire.
I've slept around some campfires.
So you never camped out on the river before this?
No, I haven't. Nope.
Really?
And I don't even think this. I mean, would this really be considered camping? I mean, this is a it's a floating
glamping.
house.
It's glamping.
We call it glamping.
It's a souped up. I mean, there's people that. I mean, it's actually this thing's probably nicer than my house.
This
This is definitely
probably nicer than most of the apartments I lived in college,
Oh yeah.
for sure.
This is nice because it has doors.
Screens.
A lot of the
And screens.
apartments I lived in, they had broken doors.
I'm just.
So this is your first camping experience,
Yeah,
like out
it's
here
pretty.
in Mississippi.
It is. Yeah, I
It's
mean,
pretty
I've
awesome.
I've been out real late, but I've always waddled my way back home. There was one time. How did that go? We launched out of Ferryville, came up here and fished till way beyond dark, and then ended up running the main channel back. This is my wife and I, Kaylee, and it was all of a sudden the mayfly hatch just came, and we were just gunning it, and just, dude, we were covered.
I'll tell you.
And then it was either like go balls out or you're gonna take forever to get home. And I just beelined it right through the goose carcass. Didn't hit a single
Carcass Lake.
Didn't hit a single stump, which was a freaking miracle.
Amazing.
Yeah, that was pretty
Mason, do
sweet.
you remember like when we were kids? I don't know, it was 4th of July or fish days or something when we came up and the fish flies like had just hatched.
There's been a couple of them like that. I mean,
And it was like,
Just boiled out of the water like nothing.
dude,
Dude,
we went from there to like here.
Where you can watch them lift.
Yeah.
They'll come out of there.
And there was a foot of
Clouds.
fish flies in the boat.
Oh yeah.
Wild.
That's
you-
about what we did when we ran to Ferryville. My wife was like, "What is going on?" And I'm like, "I don't know. It's like
and
snowing, but
the
they're
old flatboats we used to run. I mean, if you're running 15 miles an hour, you were moving, but you got home and you were just slime.
yeah."
See, that's-
busting all over your face.
That's when you knew you were gonna marry your wife, right? That's the ultimate wife test. If
Oh,
you can,
dude.
if you can drive her through a fish fly hatch and she comes out of that loving you, put her right
Well, even
on
if she doesn't come out loving you, but just stays at home the next day. You're
Yeah.
probably gonna get a
Oh
little
man,
mad.
those fish fly hatches are insane.
That is one test of many that I put my wife through before I actually put that ring on the finger.
Has Ferryville had to put the snowplows on to push the fish flies off the road?
Yeah, that.
No, but
that
I remember
happens
having to
here.
sweep. I had to
Oh,
sweep,
sweep?
the
Please.
sidewalk.
They plow them here. They fire up the
I've seen
county
Lansing-
trucks.
I've seen Lansing
County
plow
workers make
street
money
trees.
during the Mayflower hatch.
Snowplows pushing
They do.
frickin' yeah.
Bugs.
Wednesday night softball league back when we were younger, and they'd hatch, the ball lights are on, and the street would have 6 inches of fish flies on it.
Yeah, it's
Just
crazy.
gross.
I heard if you eat 2 of them, it cures a hangover, or it'll stop you from getting a hangover. Is that true?
I'd rather have a hangover.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, they don't have mouths. They don't bite back.
I don't know.
So, you got that
No,
going
I've
for
just
you.
had a lot of them on me, and they stink. And
The amount of gnats coming back from setting poles last night was enough to
Ooh, that was rough.
choke a horse.
That was where I wore the sunglasses at night.
I just
Yeah.
let them all bug up in my eyeballs and itched them all day today at work.
Yeah, speaking of pink eye, well, I don't know if the recorder was on earlier.
Yeah,
It looked like he had some
2 out of
pink
3
eye.
of us are gonna have pink eye in the morning. Thanks, cameraman.
Yeah.
We're downwind to you, brother.
Yeah. I mean, the
Been a
wind's
south wind
out of
all
the
day.
southwest. What the heck?
He's out there just fogging the area for skeeters. And we're inhaling it.
Breathing smoke.
What about you, Mitch? When was the first time you were camping on the Mississippi?
You know, I got thinking, and the first time I ever went camping. Now, my dad always had boats, but never camped. And my uncle,
All right, start counting.
my aunt and uncle, they ended up having, the boat to where they could go out and camp, and they would tent camp. And so it was the 4th of July thing for me. And what was awesome was there was like this up by New Albin. There's this monstrous group of people that always camped, and they tent camped. They did it the way they should. And You know, so it was one of the.
What do you mean the way it
Yeah, I
should?
was hang on a minute. You mean like not like this?
I mean, I love this.
As in, like,
so
in a
much better.
tent?
Yeah, they were all like everybody, like all ages were tent campers back then. You know, and I love houseboats. I do. I love them. But back then, like I just didn't up by New Albany, just didn't see a ton of houseboats. So like that's really all what they did was just tent camp, and I got to do that my first time camping. Was I go out 4th of July, had a huge buffet of food, and I'll never forget my uncle set up poles for me at night, and basically I fished until I had to go to sleep, and then I was, as much as I love fishing, I was instantly hooked. It was between the food, the fishing, the camaraderie. They had a giant fireworks display. Then I knew I loved the river, and I'll tell you a funny story that next morning. So there was up by New Albany where we camped. This was my first experience ever camping on the river. So they had 2 sandbars, and there was a trail that connected 2 of them, and they had a fake like battery powered rattlesnake on that trail, and so if you walked by, it would rattle.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously there was a lot of law enforcement up there. They were patrolling and so forth, and we had a guy that did the fireworks on the beach. He apparently made his own fireworks, so he was lighting off some extremely loud fireworks, and the authorities heard it, so they pull up on the one sandbar, right? And then we're all on the other sandbar. So of course they beached their boat, and I remember it just like it was yesterday. There was a female DNR officer. She's walking that trail, and all of a sudden I see her get to that snake. Man, she jumps like 3 feet in the air, starts screaming, grabs her gun, starts backpedaling. I'm thinking, man, I'm gonna watch this DNR lady just blast the shit out of this battery-powered rattlesnake, you know. So I'm sitting here thinking, like, you know, I'm a young kid. I'm like, man, this is awesome. I can eat all sorts of food, watching fireworks, you know. And then obviously the icing on the cake was scaring the shit out of the DNR lady. But after that, I actually saved up money for a long time just to get my own boat. Man, I bought a 14-foot Northwoods with a 10 horsepower. I think it was a Johnson or something on that, and it was history ever since. You know, I've loved the river, been on it ever since, and I've got kids to where, you know, I'm hoping that they love it as much as I do.
Do you remember, Mason, just talking about like houseboats, and obviously houseboats and us going to duck camp and things like that with our parents? What we're on now, like compared to what we started like sleeping on, like
We were just talking about that at work the other day, and I said, you know, we used to go out, and obviously we got talking about being older and the age difference and stuff now, and how it's weird. But when our parents were 25, 30 years old, we were 4 and 5 years old out here hanging out with the guys, which was a lot of drinking and a lot of euchre going on after they put us into the hull of the boat to sleep. And these old Gibsons and lazy cruisers and whatever, the fiberglass hulls, every one of them old boats our family had a foot of water in the hull. So you put an air mattress down there and fucking float it around in the V-hull boat at night, and under the steps, so they're double level.
they just shut them. There's nothing blacker than the bottom of that hull.
Double boat. So you walk in, you know, and you got your couch and your helm, and then you drop down 3-4 steps, and you got your kitchenette and your dining table, and then the back bedrooms. So under them steps lifted up. And once they're shut, the euchre games continued, and the hooting and hollering was going on right above you.
You went to bed.
There were spiders down there that were like, I mean, tarantulas look normal.
They were big enough you could see the color of their eyes.
I hated spiders ever since. Like I said, if you put kids in living conditions that, like today, you'd never see it outside of a prison cell again.
You couldn't
And here
put
we are, just still loving the river.
couldn't put a light down there because you'd get electrocuted.
Yeah.
we thought it was like a water bed, but you're actually just floating around.
God, that's funny.
It was
I had
so
the
cold.
fiberglass Gibsons.
And it was terrible because it's like you wake up in the morning and you're just soaking wet. And it's like, what the hell? Well, a corner of your blanket was dipped in the river on the water all night. So it
This
just
is like a wick.
absorbed up over top of you.
Soaked
You
it up
wake
like a
freezing
tampon.
cold.
You woke up with a dry hull.
It's like Well, the hole's dry now. The bed's wet. I don't know what the hell all these bumps are on my face, but man, they itch. All right, you ready to go duck hunting?
Sneaks. Oh, that's
I think
funny.
I have pneumonia.
I have some pretty good times. Still,
Yukon Delta.
What's that?
That was the houseboat that I got free from my friend.
A Yukon Delta?
It was a Yukon Delta. Yeah, that was.
I can't say I've ever heard. Blake, you ever heard of Yukon Delta?
I've
It's.
heard of Delta Clippers, but a Yukon
This is a
Delta?
Yukon Delta. Yep. Yep. They're made down by the Ozarks.
That's where they all come from.
Do we have a fact checker?
You can just make anything up. Nobody listens to this podcast anyways.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Well. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's Yukon Delta. I got the floaty boaty over there for doing some skid steer work, and that was payment for the machine work that I did. And then she had this lady who was a widow. She was like liquidating everything and cleaning up her property for sale and all that. So I get the pontoon boat, and it was pretty gross when I got it, but I'm like, yeah, I saw the potential in it. So
You do good at that.
see the potential in
Yeah.
things.
People, things.
Thanks, man.
You're a hard worker.
I appreciate that. It means a lot. It's Milwaukee blood.
Hey, we're all, just so you know, we're all about lifting each other up. Cheers to that, right? We're here to promote
Hey, I love
our
it.
everything that we're good at doing here. This is more of a support group.
Sometimes it's not really fishing, just a sport group.
It's just a
Yeah.
support group. We get so beat on at home by our wives. It's just.
Hi,
It's
my
good to
name's
have guys
Andy,
that-
and I'm a
that really
fishaholic.
believe in us like you, Andy.
So, thank you. I see this thing in the weeds, man, and it was this big freaking house. I mean, not as big as this houseboat, but it was, a big boat, fiberglass hull and outboard. And I'm looking at this thing. I'm like, man, this thing is freaking sweet. And I have friends before I had a house to live in when I decided to move out here, because I'm not from here like these gentlemen are. I squatted in the quack shack.
Wait,
That's
quack-
the,
the
that's,
quack
shack?
the- that's the quack shack, not the crack shack.
how's that spelled? Clarify that for us.
Quack.
Andy lived in a quack shack.
Yeah, it was a duck hunting camp, is what it was.
That's Wisconsin
It
for
was
you.
like naked and afraid for 24 days.
Hey, I won.
I survived.
He's still here.
I'm here.
This is what we're dealt with.
So these guys were like heavy duck hunters. Apparently they weren't as hard as you boys, because you were brought up sleeping in the hull of a boat in November.
Oh, we're gonna go back there.
Yeah. So I thought it would be great, and I'm not a big duck hunter, but I had the idea of like this houseboat being like the mothership for duck hunting, right? Like we would pimp this thing out, like gut it, and then just paint it camo, like old school camo, and then like have a place for breakfast and stuff, and then the flat bottoms would like disperse
Dude.
out.
I deal with houseboats every day.
You don't
this
wanna
is a very common thought amongst houseboat owners.
Is it for duck hunting?
But I'm going to redo this houseboat.
It's like in every year.
Then you start redoing this houseboat, and you get like $15,000 into it, and you're like, I'm gonna pay somebody to take this fucking boat.
Well,
Or you just say, I've spent so much money in my houseboat, I could have bought another houseboat.
well,
I've done
was
that.
way better than this one.
I thought flipping houseboats was a thing of profit.
there was zero money spent on this houseboat. She was like, please take it. Title and everything. So I thought I would like bring it over to the Quack Shack as like a gift, right? Like, hey, I got you guys a boat. So I drag it over there on 35. All tires were flat. I mean, it was rolling on steel, and get it up the driveway, and then that thing sat there for 3 years. Nobody touched it. And then he ended up selling it for like $1,200.
Paid your rent then.
I didn't get anything.
Well, no, but like you stayed at the Quack Shack for free, right? And he made $1,200 on it.
He did give me a foothold in the area. Yep. Yeah. So I mean, it's karma, right?
Yeah.
Passing
You do
forward.
what you can.
Yeah. So if you guys see a Yukon Delta out there,
One man's junk is another man's treasure.
yeah, don't let it go for nothing because they're worth something. I guess is the moral of that
Maybe
story.
like $600 now.
I don't know, man.
Boats are appreciated,
today. Yeah, so I would say it's at least 2,400.
Right now, a boat's a hot commodity. I bet you somebody's driving around that Yukon Delta right now, going, "I've got a gem."
This is vintage. It's on Marketplace right now. Vintage. Yukon
Antique
Delta.
boat.
Driving around in the Yukon Delta, pulling shots of Yukon Jack.
That boat's old enough to smoke and drink. How old was it?
Just 70s?
70s model?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, but judging by the paneling, it
There's
was.
probably been some acid trips out there.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah, but, yeah, that guy drove from, geez, I want to say Lake of the Ozarks to come get the thing.
What?
I ain't shitting.
He took
you.
it from Lake of
No, he
Thursville,
drove up
Wisconsin
the
to Lake of the Ozarks.
He drove up the
With flat
Ferryville.
tires.
He couldn't find a boat down
dude,
there.
he drove like Rip put it on the internet for $1,200 or whatever, and he was like, "Yeah, sold the Yukon Delta." I'm like, "Oh no shit, to who?" He goes, "This guy came up from Lake of the Ozarks. He spent half a day getting the tires going, and then drug her out of here." And I'm like, "Wow."
This guy still hasn't made it back to Lake of the Ozarks, just so we know.
Still fixing wheel bearings somewhere by the
The Iowa Missouri border.
So yeah, that's I don't know how that fit into the fold of everything, but
That is wild.
yeah, people like stuff, I guess, is the moral of the story.
People do like stuff.
Maybe that Yukon Delta was way more rare than everyone realized.
It was probably worth like $12,000.
Down in
You
Lake
guys
of
just
the
didn't know.
Ozarks, that $1,200 boat is a $12,000 boat if you take a can of spray paint, touch her up, put it-
Rattle can it,
Start cooking meth in it.
silicone it.
I don't know what it's worth down Lake of the Ozarks, but it must make money around here.
You guys ever watch that show, Ozark?
Oh, it's awesome.
I haven't.
It's awesome.
I don't want to spoil it for you.
Did you watch the rest of it?
I watched the whole
watch
thing.
it though.
Dude,
Yes.
what did you think?
I thought that was weak. I thought
it was weak too, man.
I mean, I don't want to
We're gonna
spoil
s-
it.
we-
I don't
we're
want to spoil it for
our millions of listeners
the
right now, we
8
will
people
not.
that are drinking and watching this, and Blake. But I was disappointed in the ending. But that doesn't mean it's not worth watching.
Also, for the record, I've never seen Star Wars or Star Trek.
I haven't
And
either.
I've
I
never
thought of
watched a
that.
Harry Potter movie all the way through.
Me either.
My wife has tried, but so three things that I feel like everybody like.
I
is
feel
sold on.
like if you watch the Star Wars series, it like changes you. Like, I'm just gonna stay away from the
Harry
Star
Potter
Wars.
does too, because I got wrapped up in that.
Now we're dipping into cinema, everybody. We went from houseboats to cinema.
How about
camping.
them bank poles?
Yeah.
We're gonna stick to cutting up night crawlers and doing bank poles.
Yeah.
So, going back to duck hunting and sleeping in the hull of this houseboat, we've got a Army surplus store 2.5 miles away.
J&Rs.
Do you remember? You would go and get down sleeping bags, and these things would smell like you think of black mold. That's what these things smell
They
like.
already smelled like that when you bought them.
You bought them.
Those bags are insane.
They were warm though.
Straight
They
out
were
of Vietnam jungle.
They were damn warm.
1994,
Covered in Agent Orange.
Yeah,
There's one thing that kept you
down
warm.
and dump the rice out of it.
right out of them.
It was napalm.
You had to dump the rice out of it when you bought it.
Oh boy.
Jesus Christ, there's still some lucky strikes in this one.
And you were
Down the hall,
your
took
face.
those lucky strikes.
Use lambskin rubber.
Right? God, the frostbite around your face, your
Ass
head
gas.
sticking out of this thing. I will forever have that smell
Wake
embedded
up
in
with
my
goose
brain.
feathers
Well,
stuck in your head.
just in general, that military gear is just gnarly shit.
Well, I mean that.
I feel bad.
Trust me, I camped in
feel
the bottom
bad.
of a hall of
Feel
a
bad about
houseboat. I
what?
would never want to use that.
What do you feel bad about?
Soldiers had to deal with.
Yeah.
That was cutting edge at the time, man.
Yeah,
Now
but
it
they
sucks.
weigh
This
like
was Desert
46
Storm kind of stuff.
They didn't need sleeping bags in Desert Storm.
47
might have the
pound
desert gets cold
sleeping
at night.
bag. Super
Have you
efficient.
ever sleep in the desert?
110 in the day,
Not
40
this-
at night.
No, I haven't.
No, okay.
There was so
All right.
much down in those things.
Neither
They were
have I.
bulletproof.
These things weigh 15
Listen, I've shot a
pounds.
goose and seen how much down is on one goose, and I've watched pellets bounce off of geese before and they keep flying. So yeah,
15
them
pounds.
sleeping bags had probably close to 3,000 or 4,000 geese worth of down. I'm surprised there's even a Canadian goose left in the world.
You know what's funny though is, so
That's funny.
We're talking about like I said, guys that are playing euchre till 3, 4 in the morning, telling us kids to go to bed, but yet do not make us make our beds in the morning at home. But I will guarantee we had to roll that goddamn sleeping bag up every day.
Ring it out.
And wring it out, put it out on the upper deck to dry off.
Hang that over the rail.
Because then we'd get hypothermia at night.
And then beat
If
the
we did
ice
not-
off it when you wanted to crawl back in.
If it was not dry, we'd be
That
hypothermic.
duck on that some bitch is floating in the river because it blew off the railing. Like, well, it's gonna be wet again tonight.
Speaking of that military gear, so my grandpa I should say would have been my grandmother's like boyfriend. It wasn't my grandpa, but he wanted to take me out hunting one time, and it was going to be cold, so I didn't bring a face mask or anything. But have you guys ever gotten a chance to see those they're cold weather wool military masks that they have over there? That's what my grandpa had.
Like the ones with the buttons?
Yeah, the
Like
buttons.
it comes dressed
They're
with
the
buttons?
fucking scariest things you can possibly.
We used to wear those.
Dude, it looked like you look like Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You put this thing on and you unbutton your mouth hole and your nose hole and your eye holes, and that's what I wore hunting. And,
But you know what? Coming up the river, those were sweet when it was like 20 below zero in the end of November, snowing like a bastard in the morning. It's like you put one of them on, you don't even know it's snowing.
Oh, I'm telling you, they were the warmest. They were the warmest gear ever. But man, they were spooky. And then even if a deer did walk out, the eye flaps would like close your eyes in. So you're like, they were.
I can't get off my
Hold
toes.
my eye flaps open. I'm gonna pull the trigger. Really efficient for war,
That's why all these guys in the Sitka gear anymore. And I'll give it this. I wore some gloves one day when mine were wet and they were warm, but it might just been because they were dry. But
Never had dry gloves up until then.
I refuse to pay $500-$600 for a coat because it's warm. Because that's what, you know what else is warm? Wet wool. You get wool wet.
Till
and
it's
it still
frozen
stays warm.
solid.
Yeah.
And you can't move.
Insulates,
You
man.
can't
Ice
move.
is insulated.
It's the best Gore-Tex you can possibly find is wet frozen wool.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
So you're anti-Sitka.
You will never see me spend that much money on Sitka.
What if it was given to you?
This stuff is so.
Right on.
Yeah, I'm not,
is so
I'm not
expensive.
against the brand.
You're just cheap.
I'm cheap. I'm not
We are not
gonna-
sponsored.
Just to be
by
clear,
Sitka.
he's nothing
If
against
Sitka wants
Sitka.
to mail me a whole hunting outfit, I'll be like, it's the warmest shit I've ever worn.
See it,
Sitka,
Sitka.
if
One
you're
more
out
guy.
there, just send us a big product plethora. We'll wear it. We'll put it on the show.
I mean, there's these guys I hunt with too from Waterloo, Cedar Rapids. They come up and they dump busters on the weekends. They got Sitka socks and their underwaiter pants are Sitka.
Everything.
They got $150.
Sitka lipstick.
They got $150 like sweatpants so they can lounge around in the recliners of their trailer houses after duck hunting. What good is that? Dude, they're so warm. You're in the motherfucking trailer house. Turn the heater on.
How about you save the money on the gear and buy a cabin?
Yeah, they're up here in a mild day, 30 degrees, 25 degrees, slight wind. Yeah, I didn't have to bust out the wading jacket. Just this duck oven did the trick. Like, yeah, but that duck oven's rated for like negative 40 degrees.
Some of that shit looks like scuba gear. It's got like you can go underwater with it.
Yeah.
It'll apparently keep you.
Yeah, I just have a black lab to retrieve my ducks. What do you got the scuba gear for?
Yeah, we swim to get
Bro,
ours.
I think this is going to be another podcast about your black Labrador.
But, speaking of dogs in the old school duck hunting days, when there was 7 dogs running around the bow of the houseboats and there's ducks laying around, yeah, it was click, 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 click. And if you
Also
you
heard
got on the
underneath
boat
the
without
hull.
washing your feet off, because there's a little sand down there, my old man would just ream your ass about some sand on the deck. But there's 27 dogs.
The dogs are going
up and down. 14 of them in a fight over here, knocking the grill over.
Eight
Three of them
hours
eating
in
the
a row.
leftover roast that was on the grill. 2 of them getting bread up on the beach.
Puppies are being birthed on your bed.
Yeah, it was
We're gonna get a new litter soon.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Drunk uncle.
That's the
euchre,
one
go
thing-
out, take a piss, leave the door open.
That's the one thing about mosquitoes out here. They are at a different level, man. Big ones.
Sometimes they carry you away.
Jake's on the screen.
All right, it's time to go
man.
set poles. Mitch, what's the coldest you've ever been camping?
The coldest that I've ever been camping was like recently or just my whole
Ever.
life. I
What
would
sticks
say
out?
It's almost every Lansing fish days because I get blackout hammered and then I pass out outside my tent. So it's like once a year I almost freeze to death.
In August.
In August.
Second week in August.
I'm usually pretty wet.
76 degrees.
At night, but believe me, it's cold when you wake up.
Oh, hey,
The
you
cold
gotta remember,
sweats.
if you're completely soaking wet and you're laying on the sandbar, you still get cold.
Andy, the closest you've ever been camping?
You guys really want to hear this story?
Yeah.
All right, so
Make it quick.
I'm gonna try to make it brief. Pipestone, Minnesota, in March. My buddy and I went out there to look for pipestone, and we ended up going to this quarry where you could quarry the pipestone. And we didn't even have enough money to get back in for fuel, so we found this quarry. And we started kicking around, picking up rocks that were pipestone. And it was blowing March, cold. So I'm like, hey, where are we going to sleep tonight? He's like, oh, I didn't really think about that. We didn't really prepare for anything. I was like,
Why would
21
anybody
years old.
think about that?
I mean, we showed up with a pickaxe and a spade, like looking to like dig pipestone. It was very poorly thought out. Anyhow, I'm walking around. And all of a sudden, we come across there's like a fire ring, and then there's this like 3 structures, and in different stages of construction. And one's like sticks, one's got like sticks and more sticks, and the other one's got like sticks and a big freaking tarp over it. And obviously, I go to the one, and I'm like, oh my god, it's a wigwam. This is great. So I crawl in this thing and I'm like, oh my! And there's like a ring in the middle of it, and there's like hot rocks, like rocks that you would get hot in a fire and then bring in, right?
Like set on your back?
No, like,
So, like,
not like
what
Scottish
tribe
rocks?
did you discover, man?
well, this is.
And what mushrooms were you eating when?
Yes.
Before you went?
This is when the peyote kicked in. Realized I was actually in my living room.
Fairview, Wisconsin.
You have no idea.
Wisconsin.
So, anyway, we figure out that you'd start a fire outside, get the rocks hot, bring them inside, and you'd be in this, and we'd sleep. I didn't have a sleeping bag. My buddy Adam had a sleeping bag. I had like this little Afghan that your grandma would put across her lap. He had pulled that out of the trunk of his car, so that was my sleeping bag. Anyhow, we get a fire going, drink a couple beers, go inside. It's time for bed.
In the wigwam?
In the wigwam, and it's we got those hot rocks in there. I mean, it got hot.
Were they still hot?
So did that
Dude,
one?
no,
I
no,
gotta
like,
know,
you had to
how
start
long
a
would that
fire?
How long would that keep those hot rocks keep you warm?
Well,
in
I'm gonna
there?
get to that. So we got
10
the rocks
minutes.
hot, and then we brought them inside the wigwam, and then we went to sleep, and it got freaking hot. I mean, sweating balls. Like I stripped down to my underwear, hot.
You wake up butt naked in a wigwam because your hot rocks.
I don't know, this is like a Brokeback Mountain sequel in northern Minnesota called like 4-Leg Lost Lake or something.
No clothes necessary. Turns out I had a membership. It was Black Friday.
Look, I'm not telling you a story to make fun of you.
Oh my god, that's funny.
Yeah, that's fine. So, I stripped down in my undies, and I'm laying there, and I'm just curled up in the blanket. I'm like, oh my god, it's so hot in here. And then, it's funny you mentioned hallucinogenics, but anyhow, I wake up. We didn't have a flashlight between us, and I wake up just shivering, like the coldest I've ever been camping in my life. Right? This is when you guys asked this. I'm like, I know what story I'm gonna freaking tell, because this is it. And I'm shivering cold. I'm in my underwear. I don't have a flashlight. I'm like, Adam, wake up! I'm dying here. I'm getting hypothermic.
Are you dead already?
I'm like, I need a light. And he hands me this pocket knife, and it was like this little Chinese pocket knife, and it had like a little light where you push. It was red.
It gave you a laser pointer.
It gave me it gave me something. So like I'm trying to like find my clothes, and I'm getting dressed up, and all of a sudden I hear this like by my head, and I'm like, what is that?
It's the shower.
What is that? And it turns out, dude, I'm like, there was bats in there, and I like they're flying around.
You warmed them up.
So is the wigwam in the cave?
No,
Or there's in the wigwam?
They were in the wigwam, and they didn't really bother us when we crawled in to pass out. So these.
They were cold.
Now they were, because they got warm and then they got cold, and then I'm in there shuffling around trying to get dressed because I'm shivering my ass off. Anyhow, so these bats start waking up, and Adam's out cold, and I crawl out of this thing, and everything's like in black and white. It's like 4:30 in the morning. The wind is blowing 20 miles an hour out of the west. Snow's drifting, and I get myself to the car. I start the car, and I fall asleep in the car with the heat cranked up. I wake up to somebody knocking on the window, and I'm like, and it's a park ranger, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" I roll the window down in this old Buick, and I'm like, I gotta think of something quick. My friend and I are students at UW Stevens Point, and we're doing a study on anthropology. And we're here in search of pipestone. And he's like, "Where's your buddy?" I said, "Well, he's sleeping in the wigwam."
In the wigwam.
He's like, "The what?" I was like, "The wigwam." He's like, "There's no wigwams here. There's a sweat lodge. Your friend's in the sweat lodge right now?" And I said, "Well, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, that's he's in like a little structure." He's like, "You and your friend need to get out of here now.
In the reservation sweat lodge.
And you don't leave anything to show that you were here." And I'm like, "Okay, sounds good." So I go in there and I'm like, "Adam, we gotta get the hell out of here." And he's like, "Whoa," and the bats are still messing around in there. So we come out. I'm like, "Dude, we gotta we're cleaning up everything, trying to put everything back so we didn't, and Adam even went so far as to break cigarettes and leave them on a rock as an offering, a tobacco thing, because apparently it's something you're supposed to do.
Were you on a reservation? Or the Walmart parking lot?
No, dude. No,
Turns out we were in the parking lot of Walmart for a week.
What we were at was sacred ground. Where,
okay.
Where
rituals were completed.
And people of European descent were not allowed to be, which Adam and I both are, so we got out of there, and that was the coldest I've ever been camping.
Now, were you supposed to take the pipestone from the sacred ground, or
you had to go there?
There's so much suspense to the story.
There is so much. I still have some.
Really?
Yeah, I keep it in my truck door.
Sweet.
Like a good.
I think there's more to come in the story.
I think there might be. I got a pipe I made.
Soon we're going to be making MudbuM pipestone necklaces. They'll be online for merch purchase.
I can't even follow this up.
I topped you.
I think
Come on, that's bullshit. You slept in the bottom of a wet boat.
But it wasn't on an Indian res.
Well, it's not an Indian res.
Yeah.
But actually, the closest I've ever been sleeping was, it wasn't even camping really. We were in Alaska, up north of Anchorage, snowmobiling. And we were at this outfitter. I don't know if you call it an outfitter. He had these shanties. And each shanty had its own oil drip, furnace. And when I say furnace, it was the smallest little wood stove that you can picture with a pipe that literally dripped.
Yeah.
Like a drop of oil that would burn.
And that's what
the
heat was.
That was what the
Wow.
heat was. Anyways,
That's
it stopped.
Stop dripping.
I stopped dripping. The fire was out in the morning. My eyes were frozen shut, and like the toilet was frozen over.
Like you had pink eye?
Yeah, I could not open my eyes.
It's not pink eye. It's real bad allergies.
It was allergies, frozen
Bring it
allergies,
full circle.
Frozen allergies.
and trucks wouldn't start. We had to literally get like a charcoal out of the grill, build like a charcoal fire under the truck, and it was -60 or somewhere in there on the truck. There's a thermometer, but I think that's all the colder it went. I don't know how cold it was.
That's crazy.
-60. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the coldest I've ever been camping.
You know,
Well, that beat me.
Not even close.
Yeah, the funny thing about that oil they forgot to tell us is if it gets below like freezing, the oil gets so thick it doesn't drip anymore.
Yeah, it was. There's no drippage.
totally built for cold weather. You
That's
know,
the best design they ever sent to Alaska.
it went out of business the next year. It's strange. Weird. You know that story you just shared.
Then you could buy them stoves at the Army surplus store. So,
Put them on a houseboat.
Dude, I just thought of a good story. So you're talking about Alaska, and so I went elk hunting out in Montana, and I teamed up with our good buddy Rowley Buckmaster, as we all know, and he's a mountain man, and so we camped back there, and this is actually probably the coldest I've ever been. So I camped back at a trailhead, like right outside of Livingston, and I mean I had a tent enclosure, like at least I had some type of structure over top of me, you know, and so we're right at the trailhead. We're gonna hike in, so we're just getting ready to go to bed, and I'm like gonna go into my tent, and I'm like, Rowley, you gonna set up your tent? He's like, oh no, man, I'm good, and I'm thinking, okay, like maybe he's just gonna like sleep in the back or sleep in his vehicle or something. So like I wake up the next morning, and there's like 7 inches of snow that had fallen. So I walk around and I knock on Rowley's like truck door, and I'm like, dude, he's like not in there. I'm like, oh my God, this is where like nightmares happen. Like Rowley wandered into the, we had been drinking, but not that bad. So then I'm like knocking, I shook the vehicle, and all of a sudden I like see somebody like pop out of the bed of the truck, and like all you could see was 2 little eye holes through the snow. Dude, he just slept back there in a sleeping bag. Literally just got snowed on the entire night.
Probably an Army surplus bag.
He's probably in one of those
Down feathers.
Just the down feather bag.
They are warm if they're dry.
They do work if
really
they work.
cold
freaking
enough where
heavy.
the snow won't melt. It'll stay warm.
All right. Well,
Bank pole setting time.
it's time to go set some lines.
Stuff some pole.
Yep. Trot lines, bank
bet.
poles, bow fishing, maybe some frogging. Appreciate you guys joining us again, MudbuM USA podcast. Follow us on social media, MudbuM Media Machine on YouTube, MudbuM USA on Facebook and Instagram. And we will see you next time to talk about maybe how our set went tomorrow morning.
You bet.
All right. Catch you guys later.
So many activities.
So many.
We fish for the fish that eat the fish you fish for, and you should too. Quit jacking around and get you some hog dogs today.